This is usually the part where I walk in and say, I want one. However, today, I'm gonna walk in and say I need one. Be right back. I need one. And that's what I said immediately after getting off the motorcycle. We are now several days later after filming that because I wanted to let my thoughts percolate. Mostly because I just want to make sure it didn't give me a really great first impression and I was overlooking some of the problems, because the Livewire S2 Del Mar is my single most anticipated electric motorcycle, period. So imagine this scene. I'm sitting right here at my computer doing some work, and I get a text from my buddy Chris over at Livewire, and he's like, hey dude, you want to ride an S2 Del Mar? And I was like, yes, very much. I do want to ride an S2 Del Mar. He was like, cool, there's one at Cowboy Harley Davidson right now. They're there today and tomorrow. And I was like, I can't make it tomorrow. Let me get my gear together. So I crammed all of my camera gear into a bag, threw it in the back of my Mazda, said, this is for family. And then I yeeted my Mazda through a helicopter, down some wheat fields, over a mountain, and got to Cowboy Harley Davidson back in time. And sure enough, there were a whole bunch of S2 Del Mars just sitting at the dealership. They had their demo fleet, and actually, I didn't know that they had a demo fleet available. My understanding was that there were so many pre-orders for the S2 Del Mar that they couldn't actually fill them in time. They were basically making them to order, and they didn't have any like press bikes, but I guess now they have a demo fleet and it's touring around so you can check them out. Now, I worked my charms on the Livewire people, and I managed to convince them to let me take this motorcycle, supervised of course, out into the hills and away from the standard dealership demo route so I could see what it actually feels like in the real world, and here's what it was like. Alrighty folks, we're officially pulling out on my first ride on the Livewire S2 Del Mar. Ooh, yeah, okay. You can instantly tell the difference between this and the one, and it's a huge positive difference between the bikes. Even in the eco mode, this thing is nice. We're gonna have to see how it develops throughout this test ride. I've got a nice little route planned out. Okay, that was just a little squeeze in sport mode. That feels so good. Oh my God, it feels so good. So this is gonna approximate our highway ride here because the highway is currently jammed up. We're filming this on a Friday afternoon, and we don't have a ton of time on the bike, but we are going to be doing a nice little breakdown here. And cruising at about highway speed, one of the things that I liked so much about the one is how stable it was. And it was stable due to a long wheelbase and a heavy weight. This thing lost 100 pounds over the one, and yet it's still totally stable cruising at highway speeds. And because we have such wide handlebars on this thing, you have really great control. You just need a little bit of a push to go side to side. Despite having a really big front tire, that 19-inch front end, that sort of flat track inspired look, it feels really nice side to side because we have these nice wide aggressive bars. You really get good leverage over that tire. And it's so narrow between the knees. Oh my God, is it so narrow. It literally feels like I'm riding my old 690. This is like Livewire made a KTM 690 with a big ass battery. It feels so good. And yet it's stable on the highway, which is so nice. That's one of the reasons why I went up to my Ducati, is for a little bit of added stability.
And then, of course, because we are dealing with a slightly lower, we're dealing with a smaller battery here and effectively less range, you do have the same modes as the one. So we're going to drop it, we've dropped it into the eco mode here. And I gotta say, the eco mode still feels great. You got a ton of roll-on power and you get the full regen, which is really nice. I love how much regen is available here. Oh man, this thing, it cruises so well. You know, it's a naked bike, so I'm getting a ton of wind blast in the chest, but beyond that, feels great on the highway. And we have cruise control. Nice and easy Harley style cruise control off of the Pan America and the Sportster S with the roll to kill. This is a wonderful setup for highway riding. The only real Achilles heel is the range. We've been goofing around a little bit. I started at 87%. I've done a handful of pulls here, and I'm already down to 78 with an effective range of 65 miles. We're going to see how that holds up. But I knew coming in that I was not going to be able to match the range on the one out of this guy. But we'll see how it holds up once I get it into the higher speed mode that I always like to run.
I interrupt this test ride to bring you a quick word from today's sponsor, Xter. No longer will you have to take your gloves off to pull a card out at the gas station or throw your back out sitting on a massive leather wallet. Their slim designed wallets are RFID blocking, and the trigger fans your cards out so you can easily get the right card without having to pull them all out at once. They've also got Bluetooth trackers for when you lose your wallet or your keys, and they've got a ton of other EDC goodies from key cases to laptop sleeves and more. Check out everything they've got to offer down in the description below and use the code SPITE for 25% off your order. Now let's get back to the action.
Alrighty folks, we've been bombing down some of these back roads here, and unfortunately it doesn't get super duper twisty until you get way out in the hills here. If anybody knows Central Texas, you know it's a lot of roads that are straight with some decent corners some places, and I've found a couple coming up. But I would like to talk a little bit more about just the ride that I've been having on this thing. And the first thing I got to tell you, when I first sat down on this motorcycle, I thought it was going to be very uncomfortable. I thought that the seat was going to be just absolutely rock hard. And don't get me wrong, it's a stiff seat, but it's not uncomfortable. I'm actually quite comfortable sitting on this guy, and the ergonomics, they're awesome. They're literally like supermoto ergonomics. It feels like I'm on my Hyperstrada. My legs are really comfortable. There's a great bend in my knees. My reach to the bars is exactly what I would expect from a supermoto. It's such a nice feeling. And now we're in sport mode. You can just crack it open and it's all there for you. This thing accelerates so much harder than the one does, simply because it's so much lighter. And you really do feel it. Like when you get it on a corner, we've got a couple coming up here, you can set yourself up because it's so narrow between the knees, and the cutout is just perfect for a guy my size. I can dig my knee in right here and then dip myself off the seat as we go into a corner, and it just feels excellent. It feels so nice. The suspension is sprung super well. It's a lot stiffer than you'd expect from a bike that looks kind of like a flat tracker. You know, they've got this flat track inspired look to it. It's definitely a lot stiffer. It's a sport bike suspension here. So if you're dealing with like bumpy roads, you're thinking, oh, you know, I'll chuck it down a dirt road. Sure. Do your little gravel road, but you might want to get up out of the pegs. And I will say, standing room on this motorcycle is pretty darn good. Oh yeah, here we go. It feels so nice. Oh man, it's so stable, especially with these bumps. This is another just premium ride out of Livewire. And the front brake, it's right off the Pan America. The lever feels great. The feel through the bars is great. It's just, I can't say enough good stuff about this bike, man. If I was looking for a negative, because let's be real, no bike is perfect. It's heavy side to side. You need these wide bars to get leverage to tip the bike over. The one is a lot more compliant into a corner and side to side. Yeah, it's heavy, but this thing, the steering is heavy. It's hard because of that front tire. There's a lot of rotating mass up there, a lot of inertia. It doesn't really like to dip over super duper well. So you've got to be physical about riding it. And personally, I love a brawler. I love the feel of like riding like it's a brawl, man. I love that feeling. But it's not for everybody. You really got to tell this bike where to go. Once you tell it where to go, it's fine. It's going to ride like a motorcycle would. But it's not telepathic. You need to put it on the line. And you do, to a certain extent, need to keep it there. Now, I'm going to take this bike back to the dealership. I'm going to set it up aside so that we can have a nice little piece to camera, wrap up my thoughts on this, and give you my quick thumbs up or thumbs down on the S2 Del Mar here from Livewire.
So needless to say, I had a really, really good time on the Livewire. That was 10 minutes of me really enjoying a motorcycle. Then I got back to the dealership and I started filming, and I started to think more. And the more I thought, the more I was like, hold on a second. Not everything is as right as I thought it was with this bike. So let's start talking generally about the pros and the cons as I see it with the S2 Del Mar. The first real pro is price. We finally have an electric bike that has premium components, that has adjustable ride modes, that has all sorts of goodies in it for 15 grand. That's pretty solid, especially in the electric bike marketplace where the S2 Del Mar's bigger brother is $23,000. The brakes felt great. The throttle was awesome. Because it's so light, it actually picked up the front wheel a couple of times on me, which was really cool. The only other bike I've had do that is the Ava Rebella RS, and that's a $25,000 motorcycle. Here's where the problems come in. The S2 Del Mar sacrifices range for weight. I took the S2 Del Mar from 87% to practically zero. I was limping it back to the dealership after about 60 miles. And that was combined a bit of highway, a bit of twisty, a bit of straight, just backcountry roads, 45 to 50 miles an hour. And it was gasping for electrons by the end of it. Part of that is because I ended up getting a little bit lost on my route because I didn't have my handlebar set up with my quad lock and all that. I didn't know exactly where I was going. I had a rough idea. So we did take some wrong turns, but still, it was very, very tough for me to get back to the dealership. And after about 30 miles in, I was like, uh-oh. Am I gonna be able to get all the content I need out of this battery? The other side of that coin too is because the motor feels so good, it's so light and it accelerates so well, you're gonna tear through that battery even faster. I was very conservative. I was not as conservative though as the guy from Livewire I was riding with. He was able to baby his battery a lot better than I was. He is a 100% electric guy. He's got a Livewire 1, he's got electric cars, he's used to the electric life. I still ride electric bikes almost like a gas bike, where I'm just like, let's go! And the S2 Del Mar was really fun when I was just like, let's go! But after a couple of those, it was like, no, stop. You're not gonna make it. Another problem with the S2 Del Mar, to save on some cost, it does not support DC fast charge. So you get up to level 2, and that is the best case scenario. Otherwise, you're dealing with just your regular 110, 120 socket, and it takes all night to charge. With level 2, you are getting roughly 4 to 5 hours, I believe. I'll have the exact number here on screen for you. Now look, I understand that to get the bike to be as light as it was, they had to get a smaller battery, but for me, on a test ride, to struggle to get it back to the dealership and be worried has me a little bit concerned. I would have preferred that instead of having Brembo brakes on this motorcycle or a fully adjustable suspension, we go with non-adjustable suspension, we go with Nissan calipers, Tokiko calipers, the unbranded Yamaha house calipers. Wherever you want to source them from, drop the Brembos, drop the Brembo master cylinder that's on there. I understand that it's coming from the rest of the bikes in the Harley platform, and I have bemoaned the Livewire 1 for having the standard Harley brake levers as opposed to the Brembos. It's super cool to see the equipment coming from Sportster S and from Pan America and being on the S2 Del Mar, but I would sooner give up the 19s for 17s. I would sooner give up Brembos for Nissans. I would give up the master cylinder for Nissans. I would give up cruise control. I would give up the TFT dash. I would give up so much stuff on this motorcycle so that we could have more range out of it and ride it for longer, because this motorcycle in short bursts is so much fun. Right now, as it sits with the S2 Del Mar, I struggle to think of who the buyer is. Without the DC fast charge, even guys in environments like Austin here where we have a ton of chargers are going to struggle to charge it effectively. It seems like it's sitting in a weird place with regards to the other electric bikes, and those are some unique sacrifices that they chose to make. However, what I said at the beginning of the video, I still really want one. It's a very, very cool motorcycle. It looks awesome and it rides great. I can see people making the case for it. If you're in a tight urban environment, the S2 Del Mar is going to be awesome for you. If you're riding to and from work and it's about 20 miles, the S2 Del Mar, it's going to be great for that. It's awesome on the highway. But you're going to struggle to be able to use it for your fun, twisty road riding, whereas you don't really have to make those sacrifices with the one. Now guys, with all that being said, those are my honest opinions about the S2 Del Mar. This is a great first offering from Livewire with a few curious sacrifices made to make it more attainable for the electric curious rider. So let me know your thoughts on the S2 Del Mar down below. A huge shout out to Exter and to Livewire for getting me out on that motorcycle. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.